I had sat through another year of kind of thinking, well, I thought that went well. I thought they knew it, you know, and then I realized, oops, no,
They did.
they didn't, or we worked so hard, and really it wasn't we worked so hard, it was I worked so hard today, and they didn't end up with what I wanted them to end up with at the end. So I was ready, because I had lived that enough that I thought, okay, bring me something different, I'm ready for it.
I was on maternity leave when we got the news as a staff. So when I came back, Barb had told me, and I was like, awesome, cool. What is that?
So as educators, our job is to teach students not what to think, but how to think. So I guess when we were in school, we learned a lot of facts. We memorized things. We learned about concepts.
Then, if we have enough time, I'd like somebody to explain the handshake problem and how the handshake problem is similar or different from the Valentine problem.
We need to teach students how to think and make decisions and problem solve, and that sounds easier than it really is.
It's hard to explain exactly what it is. It's taking your standards, making targets, monitoring, taking our kids, making sure that they're reaching those targets every single day. If they're not, what adaptations are they doing? Teachers are constantly asking the questions and getting the kids to do the thinking. That is all what Schools for Rigors are, is the kids are doing the heavy lifting and all the work.
And then once I realized that they can take ownership, now I'm seeing what they can do and I don't have to do as much as I was doing.
First of all, moving away from the idea of what are students doing to what are students learning. And the way we've started with that is to really focus on something we call a target. It's a goal for the lesson, but making that target very evident and understandable for the students.
So, eyes up on our learning target. I am learning to, what did we just talk about? Read with me. Identify text and graphic features. And all of the ones in the red are the ones we've been working on identifying.
Success table, context, blueprint, cost.
Yep, we're not going to read them all. Okay, so those are all the ones you just found. Awesome job today. From my previous year's teaching to this year, I can tell a complete difference. You know, I knew what my target was for the day, for that lesson, or for that week, but now my students also know, which they never knew before. And they can verbalize it, and they can tell anybody that comes into my classroom, oh, we're working on this, and this is what Mrs. Miller needs to see from me to know that I've got it.
It's crazy now when you really ask students about what are you learning about and how do you know if you're meeting the target. It's changed from I'm learning about whatever's in their book that day to I'm learning how to identify main ideas and then support it with points that an author makes.
But now we're trying to help students understand that there are some things they need to do to get to that target. We call that success criteria.
I think success criteria has probably been our hardest battle yet. Like, what is it? What does it look like? What does it sound like when kids are using it? And how to get kids to use it to make them really own their learning.
That's taken us several months to really feel comfortable implementing, because that's the hard work that teachers have to plan ahead of time. So a lot of what people see in the classroom, we see the results of, but we don't see the teachers planning.
Meaningful planning. I didn't realize just how important good planning and developing a good routine with your PLC to focus on making sure that planning is happening it would be priority number one.
PLCs and planning times have really evolved to have these greater conversations of what does our standard mean? What are this progression of targets and success criteria that we need to go through based on where we see our students starting from and where we know we want them to be at the end.
We started moving into how can we help students now become more autonomous, and one way you do that is to group students so that they are talking to each other rather than talking to the teacher. And That's easier said than done because you have to help students learn what that looks like, how they work together.
Teaching them how to work in groups and to think about things and not expect it just to be told.
I think we were both wondering what's the final outcome or the big picture supposed to look like. And I think a few weeks ago I finally felt it and I saw it, where I'm like giving them the more power, and I'm stepping back and just listening and just filling in the gaps wherever they need to be. So I would say it's letting the kids, again, struggle and be the teachers to each other. That's really what it is.
Right now, we're going to work on fluency. So you need to team up with your partner.
When you walk into a class at Findlay now, you'll probably see students talking to each other. Maybe you would see students arguing and reasoning with each other.
And coach.
Yeah, you missed these 2 words, but I understand because they're really big words. But you did a really good job trying to sound them out. But you also did spend like all your time trying to figure the words out. So I think you did a really good job.
You would probably see a teacher walking around listening and not always telling, because our mantra is the learning is in the doing. And the learning is in the doing means that children learn when they're actually doing more than if they're just listening to the teacher do the thinking.
And I think they really like that. They just want to get to it. Can we be done? Let's do something now. So I think they really appreciate that, and it shows in their engagement.
Teacher-centered, you stood up there, you asked a question, you called on 5 or 6 kids. But now if it's student-centered, they're all working, all 20 to 30 of them working on the task.
I am such a better teacher this year. I know, I look back on past years and I think, oh my gosh.
We were not making the adaptations. We used to say, well, these kids got it, but my ELL ones didn't, or maybe my special ed kids didn't. We didn't say this whole class. We didn't own all of our kids the way that we are now. We didn't analyze data the way we did. We didn't do a lot of things that I think we thought we were doing.
There have been some really hard times. There have been teachers in tears. There has been times where you're like, I know this is right, but it's so difficult right now, and teachers feel so down.
At their breaking point.
Yes. I think once you get that first little shimmer and glimmer of what it will be like, it just grows exponentially from there.
I feel like we've trialed and errored so much, but I feel like we've grown so much for that.
You'll have those days where you geek out because you've seen it and felt it, like I did last week. Geeked out. New word.
Okay, kids are using success criteria. They're monitoring their work. They're engaged in their learning. They're actually having true and meaningful conversations. I think those things started to need to come alive in the classroom for teachers to be like, okay, we just pushed through all of that challenging part, and now we're starting to see the rewards.
And now you can't not do this work. This work is probably the most important work that I've been a part of. I think my coaches have felt it. And I'm having teachers have conversations that I never thought possible.
When you start having teachers email or text you videos, or text you in the middle of the day wherever you're at, come in my classroom right now, I need you to see what I'm doing.
I was like, look at you kids, you can do this, this is awesome. And I think that was big for me to be like, you know what, this big district assessment, they're doing really well on it. And I know why, because they're spending so much more time talking to each other, working things out. Things are so clear what they're supposed to be working on. It's good for them, but it's also good for me. That way I don't get off track and start talking about something else.
They're thinking. I mean, we are teaching them how to think, and that is so important in life. And we were a little nervous about the test scores because this is all new to us. And we're not standing in front of the room teaching so much anymore. And so I was really worried about the test scores, but our data has shown that this is really working, and our kids are farther ahead than they were last year, so that's huge.
Hearing their success stories, hearing the collaboration, I don't know how we did it before without this. I really don't. And so it's been the best part of my journey so far. It's been the best part of my coach's journey. And I truly believe that if you ask the majority of my teachers, they would say the same thing, that you can't not do this work.